The Philippines may file a case against China before the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, ITLOS, over last Sunday's incident in Iongjin Shoal, wherein a Chinese Coast Guard ship made a provocative maneuver and hit a Filipino vessel carrying provisions for a military outpost on BRP Sierra Madre in Iongjin Shoal. National Security Council, NSC, Assistant Director Jonathan Malaya said filing a case before the ITLOS is among the many options on the table for the Philippine government, as the Department of Foreign Affairs, DFA, and the Philippine Coast Guard, PCG, have listed infractions committed by the Chinese to hold them accountable.
But it would be up to President Marcos and the Cabinet's Security, Justice, and Peace Cluster to decide if a case can be filed, based on results of ongoing investigations. We can file a case in the International Tribunal of the Law of the Sea. Yesterday it was made clear to us by DFA and PCG that there are violations made by China on the collision regulations, so we have a recourse there, Malaya told Radio DZBB, referring to the Convention on the International Regulations for Preventing Collisions at Sea of 1972. I'm not at liberty to discuss other options. We will have to wait for the announcements of the National Security Advisor or the Secretary of National Defense. Malaya stressed that the evidence being gathered by the PCG and other government agencies would be used to compel China to pay for damages. I think it's clear who is at fault there. It's not true that the BRP Cabra turned around. It's not true that Aniza May 2nd was the one that rammed the Chinese vessel. All these narratives are useless because we have witnesses and videos from the media, an independent body not within government control, he said. Clearly, there is intent. The Chinese side did this with clear intent to prevent and block our ships, which led to a collision, so all evidence will be stacked to bolster our position. No trigger to MDT. In an interview with DZRH, Armed Forces of the Philippines, AFP, Chief of Staff General Romeo Bronner Jr. said the Chinese intentionally hitting a Philippine vessel last Sunday was not enough to trigger the country's mutual defense treaty with the United States. These situations do not trigger the need to invoke the MDT. The more serious attacks, deliberate attacks, for instance, on Philippine ships or an attack on the territory, would necessitate invoking MDT. But such small collisions do not, Bronner said in an interview with DZRH.
The 1951 MDT allows the Philippines and the United States to come to the defense of the other in case of external attacks. The NSC's Malaya earlier said an armed attack on a public vessel of the Philippines will be enough to trigger the Mutual Defense Treaty. Following the collision, Bronner said the government instead set its sights on rallying allies, partners and like-minded nations to continue joint exercises in the South China Sea as demonstration of a united front against aggressors. Aniza May 2nd, an AFP-contracted supply boat, was on a regular mission to deliver supply to troops stationed on the BRP Sierra Madre at 6:04 a.m. on Sunday when it was blocked by a Chinese Coast Guard vessel with bow number 5203. The resupply boat was 13.5 nautical miles east-northeast from the grounded warship when the provocative, irresponsible, and illegal action of CCGV 5203 imperiled the safety of the crew of Aniza May 2nd. In the same resupply mission, Chinese maritime militia vessel 00003 jolted the port side of PCG vessel MRRV 4409 while the latter was cruising 6.4 nautical miles northeast of Iongjin Shoal. The incident prompted the DFA to file a diplomatic protest against Beijing, with allies like the US, France, South Korea and Japan rallying behind the Philippines. No compromise. The defense of our people, our territory and our sovereignty is and will always be non-negotiable, Marcos wrote on his official Facebook account Monday night. I directed the PCG to investigate the Ionjin Shoal incident in accordance with international maritime laws during our command conference with security officials, the president said. The DFA also summoned Chinese Ambassador Huang Xilian to express our categorical denunciation of the China Coast Guard's illegal and reckless actions, he said. Meanwhile, alumni of the National Defense College of the Philippines, NDCP, have issued a statement calling on Filipinos to unite against China's provocations in the West Philippine Sea.